When we go at 6 o'clock, I'll wait until we're live streaming before I call the meeting.
Yeah, no, fair, maybe,
Are we streaming?
Yes, we are.
Yeah, we're live streaming, so we're going to call it meeting of the Augusta Richmond County Board of Elections to order. I'd like to state for the record that we have one member joining us via Zoom, and that would be board member Marcia Brown. So we are all present. I'd like to focus your attention on item number 2 on the agenda, which would be the consideration of the provisional and challenge ballots cast during the August 11th, 2020 non-partisan runoff. Okay.
All right. In front of you, you should have a report titled Provisional Ballot Report August 11th Nonpartisan Runoff Election. And so if I may just begin with the groups that we normally do. So the first one is Group A, which would be our provisional ballots that are cast out of precinct. So we had 6 people who cast provisional ballots who were out of precinct because they reported to an incorrect polling place or they were not sure of the correct polling place. And so the recommendation on those 6 provisional ballots is to duplicate those ballots onto their correct precinct and then to count those ballots. So moved.
Second.
Properly moved and second to take those individuals, those 6 voters that cast provisional ballots outside precinct, that those ballots be duplicated and eligible to be counted. All in favor?
Aye.
Continue.
On item B, or Group B, there was 1 voter who was at their correct polling place. They were marked as receiving an absentee ballot. The normal procedure would be for the poll worker to remove that mark and then allow them to vote on the BMD. Unfortunately, they were unable to remove that mark and issue the voter voter access card. So to allow the voter to vote, they gave them a provisional ballot. So there weren't any complications from that. We did verify that the voter had not voted an absentee ballot, so the recommendation would be to count their provisional ballot.
Second.
Been properly moved and seconded to accept the vote of the provisional ballot. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Item number C.
On C, we also had 1 voter who was marked as absentee, and the way the new system works, it actually will show whether they were issued a provisional ballot, whether they voted advance voting, or whether the ballot was actually received by our office. In the case of this voter, the poll pad did show that the ballot had been received. Also, our records at the office indicated that the ballot had been received. However, the voter did not remember or did not recall that they had mailed the ballot in, and so therefore asked for a provisional ballot. So we were able to verify that we did receive their ballot. So therefore, the recommendation is to reject their provisional ballot.
Mr. Chairman, so moved.
Properly moved and seconded to reject the ballot in question. All in favor?
Aye.
And then the last one is the absentee provisionals. As you recall, these are voters that during the course of sending in their absentee ballot, their signature may not match the signature that we have on file. So therefore, we contact them, we send them an affidavit to basically cure their mismatched signature. And in the case of these 3 voters, they did file the necessary paperwork. Unfortunately, the paperwork was not filed prior to election day, but they have at least the 3 days after the election to file the paperwork, and which they did. And so the recommendation is to count their provisional ballots as well.
Second. Properly moved and seconded to count the 3 secured ballots due to signature. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
So with that final tally,
Make sure we all work together on that because I'm not quite sure that Marcia.
she did, she said aye.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
But
Gotcha.
Just want to make sure we get
She
the
did,
count right.
yes.
That's all. Want to make sure everybody. Okay.
So with that, then out of the 11 provisional ballots that were cast during the runoff, there are 10 that are going to be accepted and 1 that will be rejected. You also have the provisional ballot report, which is kind of slim in this election because we did not have as many. So it shows you the different categories and the different polling places where people cast provisional ballots.
And perhaps just for the record, we didn't have any military ballots that came in before the deadline last Friday.
That is correct. yes,
So this is it. These 10 ballots is it.
Right.
Okay.
Yes,
So that would include any overseas ballots.
It would. Last Friday, in order to be counted, and we didn't receive any additional ballots from overseas citizens or military. You're welcome.
Yeah.
So if I may be excused then, I'll put these in.
Travis is doing that. Lynn, do you want to start with the recap?
Sure, I'll be glad to. You should have a copy of the recap of the election in your package. So I'll just start from the top. Feel free to ask any questions as we go along and we can discuss anything you'd like. I will say that things work much better in August than they did in June in terms of the poll workers being better prepared on election morning to get their polling place up and running. All polling locations were open well before 7, so it worked out well. And one of the things you might recall, managers for those polling locations that weren't open in August to serve as poll workers for this election as well. So in many instances, we had 2 or 3 poll managers working at the same place. But in addition to being a tremendous team building exercise, it was a very practical thing and a good experience for everyone to get their hands on the equipment. So that part worked quite well. Complaints and issues. Again, election day went basically well. The biggest problem continued to be voters that had been previously issued a ballot by mail, who then decided to come and vote in person. And what we've discovered through the June election and through the August election, there are many different reasons why voters do that. Sometimes it's because they just changed their mind and they would rather vote in person. Sometimes it's because they haven't gotten their ballot yet through the mail and they're unsure of what to do. So there are a number of reasons that cause that behavior. But it was an issue. It was a bigger issue in June just because we had more people we had more ballots out there through the mail. Moving on to November, we expect that to be one of the biggest issues that we'll have. And so we'll have to focus, continue training our poll workers on how to cancel those ballots. And in larger precincts, we're giving thought to creating a new position inside the poll, purchasing, releasing some tablets so that individuals at the polling place can have direct access to our election recording system that we only can access from the main office. And with that capability and with that access, they can do the same with us there from the polls that we can do downtown to ascertain whether or not they ballot back. And I think that will help speed things up in these larger precincts where we'll have more people coming. So that's one thing that we are thinking about. The other, I guess, issue that we had in August was the poll workers continue to get used to our poll pads. And one of the big issues we saw in June were the poll workers, the encoder, this is the little device that makes the card that goes into the machine. And it will go into the port in either orientation just fine. But if it's in backwards, it won't work. And so the machine will tell you that the voter's checked in. That happens when the voter accepts their signature. And so a poll worker could easily think that the card has been properly created, take it out of here, give it to the voter, to have the voter walk over to the machine, only to have a blank ballot appear. We were much, much better at it this time than we were in June. The state has decided that it was a problem, across the board, that the encoders being such a simple thing to fix. So we have stickers coming in that we'll place over the top that says, this faces towards the poll worker, or this faces towards the voter, so they can clearly see when they put this thing together in the morning what they need to do with this. Outside of that, the other issues that we saw in June were when poll workers would create a card on the poll pad. There's a part in there in the screens that you go through where they can create an audio ballot for voters who need to have it read to them, or they can issue a ballot in a provisional mode. There's some checkoffs here to do either one of those things. When our poll workers got to that screen as they were going through, I will say partly from not reading directions, but they felt like they needed to make a choice there in some instances, and they knew it wasn't provisional, and so they chose the audio ballot. And so what that meant for some voters is, again, they would get to the screen, put the card in, and nothing would happen because it was coming out through audio in their headset plugged into here. So those are training issues that are still on the radar. And we have, thanks to Jennifer and her brilliant mind, she has developed some excellent quick reference guides. So I think our biggest training issue now is to keep reminding the poll workers to refer to those quick reference guides so that they can easily get through whatever situation presents itself. We did have in this election another instance where, and again, this is another poll worker training issue, where a voter was pulled up on the poll pad and it showed that voter as having received an absentee ballot when this voter never applied for a ballot and was never sent a ballot. The problem was the poll worker had the wrong Mrs. Jones up on the screen. Same first name, same last name, completely different voter. And so then the poll worker went in to try to take off the absentee mark and couldn't do it because the voter was impacting a different precinct. So, so there are training issues with the poll pads, and we'll continue to focus on that. Again, as far as our areas of concentration moving forward, and we'll continue to train our poll workers in all aspects of administering this new system, from the way the electronic poll pads work to the fact that there's a piece of paper involved in the system that you can get it off the printer and put it through the scanner. We will continue, again, to remind the public, and not just the poll workers, but the public about the new voting system. I think the new system has gotten lost just a little bit in all the COVID activity and the changing polling places because of COVID. But for many thousands of voters, this November will be the first time they lay out on this new voting system. So we need to keep beating that drum and continue our education efforts. And also, we will continue to remind voters, if you get a ballot by mail and you decide to then go vote in person, bring the ballot that you received with you. It makes that whole process go much almost seamless if they just bring it with them. So those are the things that we'll continue to educate the public on. So what went right in all this? These are technicians again. We have technicians stationed at reports are strategically placed. So we identified polling places that we felt like could use the most assistance on election morning and put those technicians at those places. In addition to that, we had 2 technicians at our office that we could deploy as we needed. I will say the 2 at the office were pretty bored all day long. I sent them out on 1 call a week. And, so that was a good thing. That was a good thing. What else went right? There were no reported lines on election day. That was good. There were no complaints from voters having to wear a mask. That was also good. The care affidavit continued to work very well. As Travis mentioned, the numbers that came in after election day. In total, we sent out 62 cure affidavits to voters who primarily didn't sign the back of their ballot. There were only maybe 1 that was a signature mismatch. Primarily, it was failure to sign the back of it, no signature at all. So 31 of the 62 responded back with the provided the necessary information wherever to cast their ballot. So that really continues to work well. Another thing that worked well, we heard from our poll workers in June that trying to get all that equipment up and running, all the poll workers there at that same time, it really made for a rather chaotic situation on election morning, because they would be in the zone trying to open up a piece of equipment and have people chattering in their ear, what do you want this time? Where should this go? What do we do with this? And so we regrouped on that a little bit, and now at 5:30, we only have the key people report, the more technically inclined people, the managers and assistant managers and a couple more. And that group works on setting up the equipment together for half an hour, and then the other people who are non-technical, who have non-technical jobs, come in at 6. And that worked great. That was good. Another thing that worked great is the absolute fantastic assistance that we got from the Recreation Parks Department, Environmental Services, Augusta Utilities, and especially Central Services with managing all the deployment of the equipment. They were there, especially Central Services. They came anytime we called to help us with equipment, and we called them several times over the last few months to come move equipment here and there. In all, they provided 24 people to us that helped the day before the election and the day after, as well as arranging for an inmate group to provide some labor as well. So it really, we just couldn't do it without them. So they really, really have stepped up this year, and it is not gone unnoticed by our staff. I can tell you that. It's been wonderful.
Chair recognizes Chair with a question.
Yes, I did have one. Well, one is regarding the disability community. Do they seem pretty okay with that?
Thank you for asking that, Terrence. We did have one incident at a polling place where a voter who needed an audio ballot, the poll worker was not able to create that ballot for them. And it was just, the poll worker, they had to put records side to tell them how to do it, but they didn't do it and didn't contact us to ask us how to help them do it. So anyway, the person voted with assistance from a friend, but I did hear from our friends at Walton Options. This individual was a constituent of theirs, and they passed it along as just a FYI. You might want to make sure this precinct gets some special training, and we appreciated that. So, but outside of that, we didn't have any problems in that regard. And while we're on the subject of that, with this new voting system, there's no way to, after the ballot is printed, there's no way for a person who can't see to review their printed ballot. And so for November, the state is purchasing a tablet for every polling place whose sole job will be to provide audio readback to folks who need it. We don't have them in our possession yet, but the last conference call we had just a week ago, that is the plan.
And I just want to follow up with one question, and that is that, and thank you so much for telling us, that so many more people, we have so many more people to vote for the November election. And I was just wondering, in this age of COVID, whether or not we will be able to make the voting machine demonstrations available again between now and November. Are we scheduled to be doing any of that?
So
I mean, I know y'all probably don't want to go out, but it-
No, that's also a great question, so thank you for that. No, we are interested in going out and doing demonstrations to victory, frankly, we're not. But what we can do is we can continue to have the demonstrations at the municipal building, especially on commission meeting days. And, that lobby is nice and spacious and spread out. And then we always have a machine available in the office for anyone who's interested in coming to do a demonstration. So outside of that, we do not have plans to go out, not at this time.
Wasn't there some discussion about a video, something like that?
I think
Tutorial.
the Secretary of State's office does have several videos available on.
Do we have one on our website?
I'm not sure, but if it doesn't, should.
We should.
We'll have to ask Travis
Yeah,
if
if
it's
we
out
can
there.
get one added to our website, that would be great.
and Mr. Chairman, I thought just one last thing, and that is if we could just, could we do an announcement that we're gonna be having those
absolutely.
machines available, for the general public
Yeah.
and for preparation for the,
We thought we would start that at the first meeting in September, which is September 1st. And, the other thing to think about too is, the commission is not meeting in public, it's all Zoom. But there does seem to be added activity in the municipal building on commission meeting days, even though they're not meeting in public. And it is a day that, it's a day that people can mark and know that the machines will be available on those days.
thank you so much.
That's cool.
Before we move on to the next item, or actually go backwards and get the summary cleared up. I wanted to make mention of part of the narrative that I'm hearing when it comes to the calls that I'm getting. Calls that I'm getting are calls that generally tend to be concerned about signature verification and the angst that people are having about quote unquote signature verification. This is the second meeting after an election where the majority of those signature verifications or matching, if you will, were the higher percentage of those issues were because people didn't sign.
Oh, by far.
And so, I'm struggling with trying to figure out a way to control the narrative because I know that in November there's going to be a tremendous amount of news, if you will, that's going to kind of lean heavily into the signature verification portion, especially in states like South Carolina, Georgia, Florida, Alabama. I don't know how we're going to be able to do it, but it would be really beneficial if there was a way for us to kind of show that in our process, our signature match, that the majority of them are the lack of signatures, not that we're sitting there going, I don't think that's you. I just,
I can tell you, I think
that's what I'm getting. I'm hearing, how do you know what my signature is like?
Sure.
That's what I'm getting. And they see the number, that it's not because we're sitting here comparing what your L looks like and what your I looks like 40 years later. It's, you didn't sign your ballot.
That's right.
And so
Well,
I
one
need
thing,
some help with that. I don't need anything tonight, but if you guys would put your heads together, maybe help us. Or a way to, show what our percentage is in Richmond County. To
sure.
protect us and insulate us from the negative.
I'll be glad to.
A, lack of signature, B,
Yeah.
comparative
That's what I
signature.
was gonna suggest, and
Make it, that way it would all fall under that category, but there would be an A.
That would be great, because I just, those 40% of calls that I get,
really,
how are you guys doing that? How do you do that?
really.
How do you know
Well, I'll tell
X
you
or
what,
Y? So,
I will bring some numbers forward, June and August for our September meeting. And we'll also have just a brief presentation on the whole process. What we get the application, and what happens. If everything,
That would really help the
how we
transparency.
validate and how we send out ballots and then what happens without it. I'm more than happy to.
That would assist the voting public a great deal, because like I said, there's a lot of conspiracy stuff out there that
I agree.
if we can avoid getting trapped into that or lumped into that, if we could send somebody to the website and go, look here, you'll see, here's a video, here's a demonstration, whatever. It just keeps us from having to explain something, maybe saying it the wrong way or sounding, inconsiderate or condescending. It just helps us. Travis has returned. Are there any other questions about that section? The recap? All right, the provisional ballots, let's return to the provisional ballots.
Okay, each one of you should have an official result from election night sheet that was in your packet, and then Travis just handed you the official result. And the ballot passed, everybody there, which is kind of towards the top left, reads 11,336. This is from the unofficial results. The official results read 11,346, which accounts for the 10 ballots that we just added in from the provisional and those 3 cures that we added. Okay, so there's the difference. And with that, Mr. Chair, I'll be happy to proceed with reading the results into the record.
Mhm.
Okay, these are the official results, final and complete, from the August 11th, 2020 nonpartisan runoff. There were 42 precincts open on election day, and 42 precincts have reported in this report. Registered voters, 11,346 of 84,502 cast a ballot for 13.43% of the voters participating. Augusta Commission District 1, Jordan Johnson, 1369. Michael Thurman, 846. Augusta Commission District 3, Catherine Smith McKnight, 1911. Sean Mooney, 1793. Augusta Commission District 9, Corey Johnson, 3501. Francine R. Scott, 4014. That concludes the reading of the results.
Okay, let's accept.
So, Mr. Chairman.
Move the properly second to accept the election summary report. All in favor? Approved.
And Member Dick, did the motion belong to the second?
Yes.
Okay.
Start clicking.
Okay, so we will get this up to the state poll office next Tuesday, which you can go be by to pick them up. And so I'll take it together, and that is election certified.
Ooh.
All right, well, let's continue.
Okay. Shall I roll on?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I want to talk about a couple of things under old business, since this board won't be together again until September the 13th. Some of these things pertaining to November will occur before that time, so I wanted to bring you guys up to speed on a few things. First thing, regarding the pre-filled absentee ballot applications, our target date for mail out on those is September the 4th. September the 4th. So they should be hitting folks' mailboxes right after Labor Day. We will begin mailing ballots on September the 20th. That's the statutory deadline for doing that, the beginning date. You'll recall that any absentee applications that we have on file, when September the 20th gets here, the state is going to be mailing those out for the counties for that initial batch. So that would include any voters that are 65 and older or disabled that are queued up for the rest of the year, but it would also include any other application that we've gotten in from anyone who wanted an absentee ballot for the November election. So we have around 12,000 on the rollover list. This week, there's a nonprofit called the Committee for Voter Information or Center for Voter Information. They have been sending, they have this week sent out pre-filled voter absentee ballot applications. Yes, and it's a legit application. It is a Secretary of State form. They've also included a postage paid return envelope that voters have used to send those back in. We've gotten, I would estimate, 3,000 to 4,000 in just since Monday. So it was many mail trays each day. So that's great for a number of reasons. Number one, it allows us to go ahead and get those applications in the system so that the Secretary of State will send those ballots out for us. And number two, that's that many fewer that we'll be sending applications to when we send ours out, because we will call out any person that's already queued up to get a ballot, and we won't send them an application because they don't need it, number one, and number two, it just confuses people when you do that. So there is that. Because the ballots will go out on September the 20th, I'd like to go ahead and open up the drop boxes a little earlier than we did last time and open those up on September the 28th at all those locations. I feel like they're going to be heavily used, all things considered. So if that suits the board, we'd like to proceed with that.
I moved.
Second.
Second. Aye.
And the last thing is, I want to give you a brief update on the Bell Auditorium. As you know, everything's in the works for that. So the calendar's been completely cleared, so we've got the full green light to move ahead with setting that up. Travis is meeting with the director of Spectrum, which is the company that manages the Bell Auditorium, next week. They're going to begin talking about setup on the floor. They've got some equipment over there that they can help design the floor layout and whatnot, and talk about electrical needs and make sure that everything's set up the way you need it. So that is underway starting next week. And that's really all I had, unless there are any questions about that.
Sure.
Mr. Chair, how many units do you think we'll be able to have at the Bell Auditorium?
I'm shooting for 50.
Okay.
Right now with space requirements and whatnot, we can accommodate about 12 people at a time inside the Beasley room.
Right.
So 50 would be great. We can put at least, Travis, what were you thinking as far as check-in stations? You were thinking maybe
8 to 10,
8 to
yeah.
10 check-in stations, and probably 4 scanners up there. So it should, it should flow pretty well. The other thing, little off subject but related, with the 3 satellite sites, the Recreation Department has graciously agreed to give us their gyms to use for early voting for the November election. Typically, we're in that little side room, like at the Brigham Center and at Warren Road and at Diamond Lake, we're in the side room, but we'll be in the gym. So we can easily put 15 units in all those facilities, have everything space, so it's a, I think it's gonna work out okay, and certainly place for people to come in.
Mr. Chairman, I may have done before, if I have not. I just want to again commend the executive director and her staff for making sure that under COVID-19 that we were able to get the amount of space required so that we could get people to feel they could come out of the first, clean and space, social distance environment, and to, and I just want to say that really means a lot. We want to come out.
But it's honest and truly our pleasure to do it. You know, the last thing we want is to have big crowds on election day at our polling places. That's the last thing we want. We already know that if you vote in person, it's going to take a little bit longer to vote, just because between the equipment, between usage and the cards and all those things, it's just going to take longer. And we also know that there's going to be less equipment available at one time inside all of the election day polling places, so it is just going to take longer. So the more people that can come and take advantage of early voting in that spacious environment, that we want them to do that. So anyway, there we are.
Well, part of the comment there, I think it would be appropriate to kind of talk a little bit about the fact that we've asked or charged with to make sure that we do everything within our power to make sure that everyone has an opportunity to vote and be able to do that safely. Manner during these crazy times. So much so that she was actually able to go approach the county commission, received a substantial amount of money. And I believe that money, I won't give the actual amount, but it was a substantial amount of money, and I believe personally that money was allocated to the Board of Elections because of the trust that they have in Lynn and her staff, and hopefully that trust in this board, the way that we conduct ourselves to election. So if you'd like to find out what that amount is,
Well, the great thing about that is we'll be able to use that to reimburse the city for all the COVID-related expenses that we had for March and the May elections that were postponed in midstream, and the June election and August election as well, and then certainly moving forward to November. So yes, there's tremendous help. In fact, we're in the process now of procuring electronic envelope openers to help us make the process of splitting the ballots a little less time consuming. So lots of good things happening from that. And while we're talking about it, I think that it would only be the right thing to do to also recognize the policy and authority. When we first started negotiations with them about using the Bell Auditorium, they were glad to have us do it. They didn't have it sit dark facilities with the air conditioned that big old building. But they shortly thereafter rescinded that and offered it to us free of charge. And so they have been a great partner in all of this, and it's been a good service to the city.
give credit to the mayor for talking with that group to allow that fee to be waived. I think Mayor Davis had a pivotal role in getting that fee removed from us.
Thank you. Here.
Thank you. It saved us a lot of money.
It really did.
Chair,
Yes,
what efforts are we going to make, or how are we going to notify the public that now they can vote at the Bell as opposed to municipal building?
We have a couple of ideas with that. Obviously, I mean, combination of signage and messaging in any way you can. If anyone at this table thinks of anything else that you think you can do in that regard, please, pass it on. I don't want people to come and park at the municipal building, come all the way up to the door, only to then have to go get. We don't want it to be a hassle. It's seamless as it can be, so.
They need to have a conversation with the best advantage. There's probably gonna be some people that ride the bus up there
Okay.
to vote and then realize that they've gotta get back on the bus and go to the, so.
Kind of, if I can get ahead of you on that, the, bus, actually, there is a bus that goes to the marquee with the packages. Yes, so, yeah. But we can still get with the, and let them know that.
They put it, I know they put notices for us before, on buses,
Yes.
kind of signage thing that they
On
have
the
in their buses.
Chiron, yeah, the Chiron and
But
the,
do you know if they do those type things? Because I know you work with the transit department. Do
If
they
you-
do those type things at shelters too?
if you, no, they don't do it, you have to, purchase the shelter or PSA or whatever. I don't know how they do PSA, but I know that if you make it available to them, I think they can.
Well, that's exactly what we did last time. We had posters made the size that fit into their
Yeah.
board things inside the bus. And they put those in.
Okay.
It's a great idea.
Any other business? Any other old business? New business? Hearing none, I'll take the motion.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Who seconded?
Two seconds.
Was it you?
Oh, yes, sir.
All opposed? Thank you, guys.
Very good. Thank you all very much.